3. Okay.
Yo, yo. It is Sound Advice. We're live. We had the cold open. This is your boy HifiVega, episode 13. I'm joined, as always, by the DIY Kings, Nick from Toys DIY Audio. What's up?
Hey, not much. It's just a wonderful day, and the champ is here.
And obviously, my dude, Justin, who is trying to get 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. What's up?
Don't we all want that many by the end of the year? I'm just enjoying my daylight savings time sleep hangover where I lost an hour and wish I had it back.
Yeah. I will say that since the last show, you've gained 1,000 subscribers, roughly. So
it's disgusting.
That's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive.
It is impressive.
I've had some good fortune. I made a video that resonated with people, and that's the key to having channel growth, is to resonate with people. I have no idea why or how what I did to make it work, but people liked it, people watched it, and they've stuck around to watch other things. So it's been interesting to watch the numbers kind of climb, and a little bit kind of intimidating because I wasn't expecting 1,000 people in a week to decide they wanted to follow me. So I'm like, oh, that's a lot of people.
Yeah. So the goal is not to resonate your speaker, but to resonate your audience.
Your peoples.
Don't resonate with your peoples, not your speaker cabinets.
Because at the end of the day, if no one's watching our videos, we're just like goofing around doing nothing. I mean, people, maybe we'll make videos that people enjoy.
Maybe we'll be like those famous painters, who aren't really famous until they're dead.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. I don't really want that to be the case, but
as long as they're still cashing the checks, my family, I guess. But tonight we are talking about marketing and buzzwords. Before we get into that, we've been teasing about the boombox build. Sunday, you're going to see boombox build videos. We're going to vote on them. Nick's going to put a poll up on his channel, where me and Justin are going to share that, so you guys can vote on which one you like better.
There will only be one option to vote, but yes.
Yeah. And then don't make me recount the vote. But I figured I would have to show off these awesome boomboxes. Let's just start with Nick's boombox. Let me screen share it. I've already got it pulled up.
I'm showing it off with mine because, guys, this is hilarious. So they sent me, Parts Express just decided who they wanted to send. We didn't actually pick these, but they did a good job picking it out. So I got the MK Boom, which is a portable Bluetooth speaker. It's basically Dayton Audio's MK series speakers. So if you've heard those, I actually have some on my desktop right here that I'm using. And they turned it into a portable Bluetooth boombox. So you'll be able to see this one. It is by far the smallest boombox. It is by far the hardest one to make pretty. So if you like what mine looks like, just keep that in mind, because when I got it, I thought it was going to be bigger. And when I got it, I was like, dang, this is really tiny. This is much smaller than I thought.
Well, and it's also the cheapest kit, and it looks like maybe it's the easiest kit to put together.
Yeah, like my crossovers are already assembled, which is nice for me. Interesting for them because they both have to solder their crossover together, and I'm golden.
And somebody went a little crazy with the hot glue. We won't mention who that is before we show off. Let me stop sharing my screen here so I can show off what Justin's working with over here. Make sure I click the correct one. The Executive.
The Executive. That sounds classy.
Right.
I'll need to rent a tuxedo when I film the video of showing it off, right?
You definitely should.
Oh, you haven't done that yet?
An edge.
The cool thing that I like about the Executive too is it has my favorite subwoofer in it, the small subwoofer, which is the Tangband W5 SMF.
One thing I like about it is that passive radiator.
Right.
And I think that this is the perfect example of when a passive radiator is appropriate. Because when a box gets smaller, to get any given tuning frequency, the port has to get very long, right? It's got to be a very long port. And you can't fit a long port inside of that box. That's what she said.
Just keep in mind, we
so
want to
this
save
is-
some stuff for next show too.
And I've actually got one of those passive radiators for another project that I did a while back. And so when I opened it up, I was like, oh yeah, I know this. I've worked with this very same thing before. So I'm really excited to see how it sounds with this particular woofer and this particular design.
And what I like about this is I believe we have the same amp in mine and yours build. We have a sub level, the filter, mid and high level, and treble.
Yeah, they're nearly identical from what I gather.
Yeah, I think I might have one extra knob on mine. But it looks like
Justin, yours are coaxial speakers, right?
That's right. They're really nifty. They're those coaxial speakers. So there's a little tweeter mounted inside where you would expect the dust cap to be.
Yeah,
Let
so
me
you
pull
have
that back up. I didn't
coaxials,
see
and
that.
then you have your so yours is basically you could not 3-way. It's a 2.1.
yeah,
But yeah, still.
that's pretty dope. I didn't even
It is.
realize that. What are the model on those? Those are Dayton's, right?
The CX something.
Right. See, I thought they were going to be
CX120,
those
I think.
reference full ranges. And when I opened them up, I was all like, oh, dang, it's that coaxial I've been wanting to try. So I was really happy to see that.
CX120
that's
SA.
pretty
Yeah,
dope.
there it is.
So mine is probably the biggest size wise, but it does
Jeez,
not
don't
have
go bragging.
as powerful.
You're gonna
as
make us
powerful as a
blush.
subwoofer. So I got the blast box. I've got a 6.5-inch sub. I've got a mid-range and a tweeter and a whole crossover to cymbal. I want to see if I can get to the amp and see if it's the same exact.
It's the same amp.
Yeah, it's the same amp. And I got it on good authority. Big D said these are the best Chinese amps that you can get for these little Bluetooth 2.1s that he's tested power-wise. So I think we're doing pretty good.
Yeah, I actually tested that on the channel too, not the power aspect of it, but just tested it as far as the response and stuff. And it does a really good job with that as well.
Right. And
As you're kind of sweeping over that picture with all the, look at that one in the.
Yeah, the kid.
That's actually HifiVega's.
I mean,
one.
this might be better than whatever any of us do.
Well, hold on. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
But if you look the picture up, take kind of a sweep across all the parts, right?
Yeah,
That's
right.
one thing that's cool about all these kits. I mean, you shouldn't need a bunch of other parts. You shouldn't be going to your spare parts bin unless you've messed something up with any of these.
Right. Now, I will say that on that mid-range, I did have to solder. I could not use the crimp ends because they would not fit. And I had to adjust these little pieces right here for the banana style plugs. I couldn't use both plastic pieces.
Oh, the binding. Yeah, you usually
The binding
can't because it's too thick. The material's too thick.
Right.
But you don't really need to worry about that because that's if you're using it on a metal, because you don't want to ground it to the metal. So since you're on wood, it doesn't make a difference.
And I figured it was just something I'd know, but I have something to show off here. Let's check this out, see if I can get it in the correct order. I went ahead and instead of just mounting them straight to the box, I built me a little crossover panel. Maybe I went a little crazy with the hot glue, who knows? But I zip tied all my components and I hot glued them all in place because I don't want no crazy stuff going on. What do you think about that?
Oh, hey.
The sticker's coming up. I labeled.
Oh man,
I labeled my.
You're not
sticker.
showing very good quality control here. Mid bass, nice.
That's much better than what I did because I just took a Sharpie on the inside of the box and wrote T and W.
That's usually what I do too, actually.
Yeah.
So you're not doing...
You mean you didn't ask for one of these for Christmas?
I'd like to have some of that clear shrink wrap so I could use that and then shrink wrap clear over things.
I need to do some as well. Oh, and
I need to order some custom shrink wrap with my logo on there. So
no, I asked Parts Express for CCA wire. They said they didn't carry any, so all OFC, unfortunately.
Oh, hey, I'm going to answer Kobe's question real quick. Colby, yeah, there are people that are interested in the group buy, but I'm going to mention that real quick. Guys, on my forum right now, if you guys are interested in the Cartesian speakers, we're going to try to get a group buy together just because, you have to ship them from France to America. So if we can get enough speakers buying at the same time, we'll be able to save quite a bit of money. So if you're interested in the Cartesian speakers, and if you don't know what we're talking about, then go to my channel and watch the last 2 videos. There's a live video and then a regular video, but there's some really cool stuff going on with those drivers. If you want to get in on that group buy, go to the forum, toidsdiyaudio.com. I'll put it in the chat for you guys.
And one more comment from the crowd. He threw the gauntlet down to you guys. El Fuego has some inside knowledge, and he says you guys better bring it.
El Fuego is Justin's one?
He's mine. He's mine. He's mine and Justin's. Yeah,
both of us. Yeah.
Oh, so now we don't know who he's talking about.
Yeah. No, he said HifiVega.
Oh, he said HifiVega.
Yeah.
HifiVega.
He hasn't checked his the Patreon page yet to see the updates that I've put on there, because if he had seen that, he would have said he has inside knowledge on the DIY audio guy, and y'all better bring your A game.
So
all I gotta say is mine's not even glued together yet, and I've already got you both beat.
Oh, easy.
All I gotta say. No, I'm just being honest. I don't want you guys to feel bad when you lose.
Tonight's topic is marketing and buzzwords. I was inspired to do this topic by our buddy Joe and Tell. He recently done like a 7-day series where him and Aaron Hardison from Aaron's Audio Corner talked about like some audiophile words. I was like, hey, we can do something like that. We can do, buzzwords, marketing words, stuff we see on the box mainly, or on the website, on the commercials, what have you.
Yeah. So what's the first word?
The first word that I have up here is peak power. How do you guys feel about peak power?
I love it. My favorite word ever. I look for the biggest number and I say, that's the one I'm buying.
Yeah, it's right up there with peak oil and all the other peaks that you can imagine. It's all.
All I got to say right now is that I really like Bobby a lot. You know what? Bobby needs to be, he's got the right buzzwords on this show. He said, Toyd has you both beat with one eye closed.
Oh, Lord. Bobby.
He did.
My God. I thought you were my Uncle Bobby B over here, man. What's going on?
Sorry, guys. We hate peak, though. We love Bobby. We hate peak.
Yeah, and Justin had a good video on it just a couple weeks ago, wasn't it? Where you were talking about RMS power and how they derive peak from that.
Yeah, I actually went through like the math and showed how the math isn't complicated at all. Thing to remember about, peak power. If you think about a test tone, that's, like when we do an oscilloscope or something, and those test tones that we use for the amp dynos and everything, a 40 hertz test tone is going to cycle 40 times a second. So it's going to hit its peak 40 times every second, and just for less than a blink of an eye. And then at the same time, that sine wave is going to go down in that test tone. It's going to hit the exact negative of its peak 40 times a second too. If you average those out, and they're the mirror images of each other, -1 and 1, average those out, what do you get?
Peak power.
Zero.
Yeah.
-1 plus 1, right, is 0.
Yeah.
Average of 0 is 0. And
so we're going to define peak real quick. Basically, peak is the same thing as max. So if anyone hears max power, it's the same thing as peak power. Okay. So some companies say max power, some will say peak. Just depends on what you're in. And basically what that means is if they take a piece of, if they hook this up to lightning and shoot it through it, that's the amount of wattage you're going to get, because you're never going to see that wattage ever. So it doesn't matter. I mean,
no.
most of the time you're not. The one that did surprise me though is the SPA 250, which Big D reviewed, and the dynamic power from that was actually pretty impressive. And Parts Express doesn't even mention anything about their dynamic power.
Right.
But
dynamic is a lot of where people derive the peak from, because you can get a dynamic burst in music. And if you dyno with music versus a sine waves, you will see actually more power. It's a little bit crazy.
Yeah, all those capacitors don't have to work nearly as much. They store that energy and hit it one time.
That's the thing about the dynamic power, or the power on music. It's it's not just a test tone, because a test tone's brutal, right? I mean, it's not something you'd ever listen to, and it's really hard on the amplifier. And it's all about capacitors and how much time they have to recharge. I mean, that's my understanding of it. I'm not in, we need to bring in someone who knows how amplifiers work to talk about that part. But, peak is just something they stick on a box. Max is the same way. It means absolutely nothing.
And honestly, you'll see too many people selling it. I brought it up on the last video we did on basically marketing when we said things we don't like with audio. And it's there, man. I can't remember the company right off the top of my head now, but if you go back and watch that video, you'll see it. It's actually linked in the description. But I mean, you'll see so many people on Amazon or whatever, and they just talk about their peak power. But I think everyone gets it. Peak power, bad. What's another one?
So I'm gonna hit you guys with this one.
Actually, while we're talking about peak power, can I mention something that bothers me with wattage in general?
Yeah, let's go, man.
All right, so while we're talking about wattage, one of the other things that bothers me in home audio, and I understand it's also the same with car audio on some amplifiers, is that they will give you the RMS output power of just 2 channels driven. So just imagine this. You're buying a surround sound receiver. For example, I have a Denon linked in the description down here. They used to be really good, and they'd actually give you the all channels driven in the manual. Now they don't even do that. At least this Denon, I can't find the all channels driven at all, but they will only tell you the RMS power of 2 channels driven. The RMS value of all channels driven is less,
right? Significantly
less. And you're not buying
most home theater receivers have one power supply for all the channels.
Exactly.
I mean, it's got to feed them all.
And you're not buying a home theater surround sound receiver to power 2 speakers. Most people are not. There are those few weird people, but most people are buying it for the surround sound aspect. So keep that in mind as well when you're buying a receiver, because so many people look at that wattage number and they're like, man, I want to buy that wattage one. And you guys said some car audio amplifiers are like that as well.
Well, and there's a tricky thing that they do on it with the CTA rating. They can also rate 4 ohm power. They can make the rating in the CTA 2006, but they don't have to clarify their ratings for 2 ohm, 1 ohm, or bridge. So they can be CTA rated because they met their 4 ohm rating. So that's one trick they pull. The other is, if you notice when we test, I always say all channels driven when I'm testing an amp or a head unit or anything. In car audio, a lot of times you're sharing one power supply, especially in a 4-channel and almost all 5 channels. And if you don't load that down, or you just load half the amp, you're going to put a lossless strain on that power supply, and thus you're going to get a little higher power.
So real quick, I'm going to talk -3 dB, and the teen said, hey, even if you have 9 channels, they are never going to be outputting full power all at the same time. And you're probably right. They are not. Having said that, they're also not going to be outputting just 2 channels. Now, what do you think the advertiser has a better shot of selling you on, the 2-channel or the 9-channel? Even 9-channel at moderate volume, they're not going to give you that one. They're giving you the 2-channel for a reason. It's because that's the number they think will sell you. So,
and that's the thing right there. I mean, when I think about marketing and when I think about the information that gets conveyed in marketing, it's not all bad, because sometimes you're getting information, you need to make decisions. But the problem is sometimes the information conveyed in marketing is bull crap, and it's just there to deceive you into making a choice that's not really relevant, or making the wrong choice based on irrelevant information. And when you say it's a 7-channel amplifier, but you post the power with 2 channels driven on the side of the box, or just go put a max or a peak power all over the place, you're engaged in active deception at that point. And I don't want to do business with someone that engages in active deception.
Well, and the other issue is, like, when you read it, like if you go to the Amazon link that I showed you and you click on it, it will say 95 watts per channel. And it doesn't say anywhere 2 channels driven until you go way, 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 way down in the spec sheet, and then you look for it. And then it'll say 95 watts per driven 2 channel. So, they're advertising 95 watts a channel. So what is it as a consumer you're seeing? You're seeing, oh, 95 watts a channel. There's 9 channels. I'm getting X amount of watts. Continuous.
Yeah. And that's the game. That's the game. Put as much power as you can. And with under the guise of being honest, because they're like, oh, well, we're showing RMS power. We're not showing peak power. But in the backhand, they're only running 2 channels. All right, I have one. Let me hit you with the most markety of market words. High-res certified. Wait, how you guys feel about that?
Certified by who?
Yeah, exactly. I wonder. So I think that to be high-res certified, I think it has to play to 40,000 kilohertz. Am I right here or am I wrong? I'm not exactly sure.
I can't hear you.
Yeah,
you're 20,000. You're an entire octave above what any normal human being could ever hear on their best day. I can't hear any of that.
Oh, it's for the ambiance. Is what
ambiance?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there is this belief that above 20 kilohertz, for example, you get a certain airiness that you wouldn't typically get.
What organ is sensing that airiness? I mean, is the hairs on my arm that's sensing it? What sensory receptor is triggering this in my body?
We can't say on air. We really have no idea, right? I mean, that's the whole point between some of these marketing words, is that sometimes the marketing words are used in a way that sell a product, but also in a way that they don't necessarily have to back it up,
Right.
which is concerning at times, because, you know, when someone says, hey, you know, it's got an airiness, or someone says, hey, look, this speaker sounds so much better than this one, but I can't tell you why, or the speaker wire sounds so much better, but I can't show you why. You know, there's always concerns of, one, I mean, I always feel like, especially with cable companies, hey, look, if you're going to charge this much money in cable, you should be doing some R&D to figure out why your cable sounds so much better. And you should be able to point to something by now.
Right.
If you're getting someone to spend $30,000 on a 3-foot wire, you should have some type of R&D going into something.
You know, the thing to remember that this isn't an audio only thing, right? This happens everywhere. And you mentioned the certification, for example. And one of the things that kind of bugs me, it's off topic a little bit. I'll make a small detour. There's an agency that certifies non-GMO food, so GMO-free food. And I kid you not, they put their certification on some salt. We certify this salt is genetically modified organism free. It's like, when did salt have genes?
Yeah.
and so, like, certifications from a third party or a private party, man, I don't know what they mean. That doesn't mean they mean anything.
Well, and it's interesting too, because, for example, in home audio, you can get like THX certified or IMAX enhanced certified. You have to actually, as a receiver, you know, a company that wants that certification, you actually have to pay for your receiver to be tested to make sure it meets those qualifications. And yet the public doesn't know what those qualifications are.
Right. If I wanted to build a THX certified speaker, I'd have to pay THX to even see the specs so I could build one.
Yeah, and then they would tell you, and then they would test it and tell you if it matches or doesn't match, and then they'd give you, and then you have to pay a certain amount more for each set, you know, each standard of THX, right? You can go up to like 2 or 3 levels of 3 levels or so for THX standards, and you can pay more and more money. That doesn't mean that a receiver you get that's not THX certified isn't THX certified. It just means they didn't pay for the certification.
Right, and that's kind of the same way with the CTA ratings, the 2006 for amp ratings. You have to pay a certain amount to be able to do that, and you know, some cardio companies do, some don't.
Guys, I feel like I'm talking too much, but I'm going to anyways. Look at 2001 Monolithic's comment. That's something that I wanted to bring up for sure.
What do you say?
Look out for slick packaging. The good stuff comes in the most mundane packaging most of the time. They don't need flashy packaging to sell the product. And I think about with subwoofers. One reason why I'm a bit of a Dayton Audio fanboy is because there's no Dayton Audio on the front of any of their products. It's just a simple, smooth, clean, black speaker cone. And I think about a company like JL that right now their logo is this tiny little JL Audio logo. Is, you know, beautiful cone, looks fantastic, tiny little logo. Don't need a big logo screaming at you.
Yeah. You know, but while we're talking about subwoofer, and you're right, I think you're right with packaging in general. I mean, some of that, it all depends on like if it's something you buy off the shelf. If you don't, if you're in competitions, I think there's some companies that really want their logo on them for like SPL competitions and stuff to show it. But yeah, JD Power Words is fake too.
Yeah,
I want to also talk about home theater subwoofers as well. But you can take this with any driver that you buy. It doesn't matter which driver we're talking about. You talk about car speaker drivers. You can talk about car subwoofers. There is a frequency response. Home theater subwoofers are notorious for that. Almost every home theater speaker you buy will say it goes down to 20 hertz. At what decibel? Like it doesn't say plus or minus 3D, but you just automatically assume that this is some, 20 decibels, 20 hertz at this specific decibel that you're going to hear and feel. And it's usually not. And so I'm going to give you an example here. And oftentimes, if it is, sometimes they take that measurement in 1/8 space and real close. And 1/8 space, by the way, if you don't know, is corner loaded. So basically, they'll corner load the subwoofer, then they'll take the measurement to try to get as much boost as they can out of those low frequencies. And then say, oh, yeah, we get, this. But it's not a real anechoic one. So I recently built the ISO 100. There is this really cool guy who actually just built it as well. So I no longer have to say how good it is. But he built it and was testing it in his room. Now, this is a true 20 hertz sub. Okay. It goes down to 20 hertz. He's playing this in his room with just a 250 watt plate amplifier. He pans around to show like the rest of his house. We can't even see his kitchen. Okay. But all of a sudden we hear his wife from somewhere in the house, I don't know where, yelling at him and say, "Why are things shaking in the kitchen?" He actually said that it started shaking his projector when he put it down in the theater room, and he has to figure out how to isolate it now. But he said, I have never experienced anything like this before in a subwoofer. Now, I'm not telling you this to promote the ISO 100. Why I'm saying this is because the subwoofer he's replacing is the Dayton Audio Sub 1500, which is a really good subwoofer for the price. It says it goes down to 24 hertz. It doesn't say at what decibels. He is telling, he's actively promoting on there. He's like, I never knew what this felt like until now. And this blows that 15-inch out of the water. Once again, not saying anything bad about Dayton. Love Dayton audio products. I think that subwoofer for the price is a really great subwoofer, but it's not a true 20 hertz sub. And I get concerned about when I see that marketing practice.
Yeah, and it's common, I would say, in just about anything you get, especially car audio and home audio. It's just they're gonna play the numbers the best they can to get their. They need to hit, like I said before, they need to hit check boxes. So if you're a home theater somewhere for people want to see 20 hertz, so they got to check that, even though it might be minus 12 dB, 20 hertz.
20, 30 dB.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, possibly.
I mean, most home theater subwoofers, don't get me wrong, are tuned to around, when I say that, it's commercial home theaters are tuned in the 30 to 35 hertz range if they're port tuned. So, you're not getting 20 hertz. And I don't mean that negatively. You're just not.
All right. Let me hit you all with another one. I'm going to group these together. So, FLAC, lossless, and DSD files. Do you guys have any experience?
Flat, lossless. What
FLAC.
was the last one?
FLAC, FLAC, FLAC.
FLAC.
Yeah.
And DSD
Lossless, what was
files.
the last one?
DSD.
DS.
Yeah, I like FLAC. I have no problem with FLAC or lossless. I mean, lossless, in home theater, we have lossless as far as like DTS HD and there's in music as well. But yeah.
I'd like to get a FLAC player and start doing some high resolution, but I'm in the truck. But I recognize that it's not going to, make that big a difference compared to, say, a CD or something.
Yeah, well, I think the issue is in order for FLAC to sound good, you also have to have the right equipment for it to play FLAC well, right? So you have to have the right preamp, amp, and speakers that are all going to make a difference for you to really hear the difference.
D says his wife tells him not to give her any flack. Does that count? I'm not sure. Possibly. But so technically FLAC and even more so DSD files are above a CD.
Yeah.
So they're 24-bit, 100 or 96 for flat kilohertz, and was it 192, I believe, for DSD files.
Yeah, and there is that talk about whether you can hear up, that type of range. But I think, with me, the issue is, and I think projects where Brian said it, Spotify has spoiled me at 320 kilobytes a second is pretty good. The thing is, we're used to so much compressed MP3 stuff now.
Yeah.
That, FLAC now not being, that compressed, there is a big difference, in the dynamics and things like that. So I actually don't have a problem with that, as long as, you're not buying like this really crappy Bluetooth speaker that says it's FLAC enabled or whatever that can play. Like I have a car stereo that I'm reviewing sometime, and it says it's an HD screen. It's not. It's like
720.
It's not even 720p.
Yeah.
So it's, and I mean, who cares if it can play a FLAC file, and who cares if it can play an HD file if it's not actually HD, or if it plays the FLAC and it doesn't do anything better for you.
Yeah, for sure. And I think if you really, really listen for it, you can tell a little bit difference in FLAC file or higher quality files. You can maybe tell the sound stage sounds a little bit bigger. Like you can kind of pick things out in the room more. But honestly, if you lined me up and gave me a 320 kilobits track and 10 times, and I had to pick the FLAC 6 times out of those 10, I don't know that I could do it.
Well, you see what Big D just said, or Williston Audio Labs, I should say?
Some of the high-res sites were caught up converting CD quality to high-res. Yeah, I mean,
I believe
the
that
source has to be good, and True Voice Reason says in FLAC had to come from a high-quality source to begin with.
And those are all true and good points.
Yeah, for sure. All right. How about damping factor?
Oh, on an amplifier?
Yes.
Yeah, let's talk about damping factor. Does anyone even know what that is?
Yes.
Yeah, it's the factor of damping. Duh.
Yeah.
There you go. Now I know.
Everyone knows that.
So the thing is, I understand what damping factor is, but I don't know what like an especially good damping factor would be. So it's just the ability of the subwoofer to control, or the amp to control the speaker once the signal has stopped. So like if the signal stopped and the speaker's still moving a little bit, you might have a poor damping factor on your amp.
Right. And I understand that this is what it's about. It's about cone control. But my understanding from what I read about it, on forums and YouTube videos, and I haven't done any what I would consider real research on it, is that most modern amplifiers, car or home, have enough damping factor that whatever the magic number is high enough that it's probably just fine, that you don't need some extremely high level of damping factor.
Right. I think it's one of those things where people say, like, I know it when I see it. When a subwoofer does not act right on an amp, I'm just, because that's mostly what I'm listening for these for. You just know, like, okay, this amp is not whatever's going on with it. I could tell that the sound, it's a little more sloppy than other amps I've tested.
Yeah, and
that's typically on a very, very cheap amp.
See, I don't really care so much about damping factor. Once again, people are going to oversell things. There's a certain point where you say, okay, is this really any better? Like, who cares if the number's better if it doesn't make an audible difference, right? And that's one of the things I have a hard time with amplifiers in general, because amplifiers do that on a lot of things, right? They'll do it with wattage. Someone will say, well, I have 250 watts. Someone will say I have 255 watts. Who cares? If you're putting it on the same subwoofer, you're not going to notice the difference, most likely. I mean, it's very, very unlikely. I mean, unless your subwoofer's like, I don't know, 300 SPL sensitive or something, but you're probably not. And same with damping factor. And the other thing is distortion rating, which I want to talk about, but I don't want to talk about until you guys are done with damping power.
Yeah, we're done.
So minus 3D being the teens had another good comment. I think he's winning the award for best comment so far of the night. A technical definition: it's the ability of the amp to reject the backward voltage of the speaker. That's important to remember. If you hook a multimeter up and push down the cone, it'll start reading a voltage.
Yeah, for sure. So,
all right, I'm going to tell you one of the things that bothers me with distortion. Do you guys know how distortion is tested typically, or how it's shown as a distortion number on an amplifier?
So my understanding is there's this concept of total harmonic distortion. And,
yeah, there's intermodulation distortion and THD, but we're talking THD.
THD, and this is something that you might be able to see it on like an RTA. And in fact, I did that on a video once where I don't think I filmed it, but I was just playing around with an RTA. And so say you've got a test tone of some frequency, and there are frequencies that harmonize with it. And so you can actually see spikes at these other frequencies.
Right.
And then you total up all those spikes, and that's where you get the total harmonic distortion. And the question then becomes is what can you hear?
Well, there's a couple problems with the way they test total harmonic distortion in general, I think. And this is my personal opinion. You guys can disagree with me, and I have no problem with you disagreeing with me. And there are standards for how you test total harmonic distortion. The typical standard is to test it with 1 watt, okay? 1 watt signal, 1 kilohertz, and then get your THD. So what you're doing is you're testing the amplifier at one stationary signal of 1 kilohertz. You're testing that signal at 1 watt. Who's buying a 500 or 1,000 watt amplifier to play 1 watt and only 1 kilohertz?
I mean, that might be reasonable back in the day of tube amps or something.
Well, not 1 kilohertz. I mean, you're listening to 1 kilohertz test tone all the time. So here's
all the time. I love it.
Yeah,
the most wonderful sound in the world.
So here's the issue with that. 1 kilohertz is pretty much the easiest test tone for an amplifier. So usually you can get a really good distortion profile with that. So what I would like amplifier people to start doing is testing the total bandwidth. 20, like if you say my amplifier go 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz, and they give us the distortion, even if you want to give us the distortion at certain areas, that's fine. I don't mind that. But give us that total distortion. That's going to give us a better idea of what that amplifier do. Because if you guys don't know, distortion is not linear. So it can test completely different at 1 kilohertz as it can at 40 and as it can at 20 kilohertz. And there's some reasons why that's good not to do that. Some people will say, well, it's harder to hear distortion down low. That's why I don't mind if amplifiers say, hey, down in the 100 hertz and below, we get 2% distortion, and up high, we're getting, I don't mind that. But I want to know, and I also want to know at full power, what's your distortion rating? Because otherwise, it's a very misleading number.
Yeah, and it's a number that most people, I think, would never be able to tell. On most amps, the distortion rating is so minimal that the general consumer that's not a critical listener will probably never notice it.
So Fade to Black said, hey, that 1 watt rating is not meant to describe the distortion, but it's to set a standard to compare to other amplifiers. And my point is, no, it's not. You aren't comparing other amplifiers. You're only comparing other amplifiers at that one signal, because we don't know if they do 20 hertz really bad or even 10 kilohertz really bad. There are amplifiers where you'll watch and they'll test really bad in some areas and really good in some areas. So, I'm not. That audio precision does what Nick is saying, and that's good. Yeah, and there are some people that do that. Even PS Audio, I put a link to PS Audio because they do a good job at least showing you 1 watt rating through the full bandwidth, which they're not going to give you anything more than that, but they're giving you at least a 1 watt rating, so at least you can get an idea of that.
Yeah, for sure. You know what else is good? There, appreciate it, bro.
Oh yeah, we love that guy.
But speaking of the 1 watt rating, let's talk about subwoofer sensitivity. How important is it to you guys when you're looking at it?
Before we do that, we got to rewind a second, and we got to make sure that we tell the people listening on the podcast while we gave Third Era a shout out. Third Era just dropped a super chat on us, and we thank you so much for that. When people are reaching into their pocket and put their hard-earned money up here for us. It's just an awesome feeling. Even if it's just a few bucks, it's like, wow, someone likes it enough. And so if y'all don't know Third Era, he started like a printing business
and a YouTube channel.
Yes, he's had a YouTube channel for quite a while. So if you need something printed up, t-shirts, hats, stickers, that kind of thing, Third Era, if you're going to throw the link up in the chat, I mean, if you don't mind, guys, go ahead and talk up your business. I love seeing business succeed.
Absolutely, us too, especially when you're doing this type of stuff, because we love that.
Yeah, for sure. thirdera.com. Remember it.
As far as sensitivity, so I'm gonna let someone else talk because I've been talking for a while, but I have a lot to say about this. So I'm gonna let someone else go.
So you want to talk about sensitivity? So you bring up a topic and then let us run with it.
Yeah,
I bounce off you guys once you've said what you think about it.
The biggest problem with sensitivity is that most consumers aren't looking at that spec. And the other biggest problem is I don't really know that that it's reliable. What does it mean for a subwoofer to have some particular sensitivity number or any speaker? I mean, because the volume it plays will be different at different frequencies. It's just too one-dimensional of a number.
Well, my problem with sensitivity isn't that, because what 2001 Monolithic is saying is, hey, it's a very important rule of thumb. Not all efficient subs sound good. Not all power hungry subs sound bad. And I agree with that. It's all got to do with Hoffman's law too. So it has to do with what you want to do with it, how big of a box you want, those types of things all go into that number. My problem is sensitivity within a loudspeaker system. And the reason why I have a problem with that is I put a link down for Klipsch down there. It's the RP 8000s. Klipsch rates these at 98 decibels sensitive. They have been tested by multiple sites, and no one has come anywhere close to that. Klipsch is pretty notorious for this, though, giving non-anechoic sensitivity numbers, and it's really deceiving because people jump on that thinking, okay, well, I don't need a lot of power to power this, so I'm going to buy this speaker. This 98 decibel speaker has been tested, and I put the testing information down there too. There's a link to the testing information at 92.1 decibels. That's a 6 decibel difference. That's a huge difference in sensitivity. And what some loudspeakers will do, deceiving loudspeaker companies, or what I consider deceptive practice, I should say, is speakers will go plus or minus 3 decibels. And some manufacturers will take whatever that plus 3 decibel peak is in sensitivity, and they'll rate their speaker at that sensitivity and say, there's my sensitivity. And that's not your sensitivity. Your sensitivity should be more the midline. It shouldn't be the peak.
Yeah, so your sensitivity argument is like the cheating, like they would on RMS rating or this, power rating or something like that.
It is. And, I bring up Klipsch because they're the most notorious for it. They're not the only people that do this, but they are very notorious. And it's too bad, really, because I just want to see a fairly honest number. Audio Science Review is where Audio Science Review has reviewed quite a few speakers, and they'll also do that. And a lot of loudspeakers are fairly close, but in general, most of the time, whether you see it for a Sound and Vision review or Audio Science or Audioholics or someone, you'll see that sensitivity is just off. Right. And it's with a couple loudspeaker companies, and it's just too bad. We need good data to make good decisions.
Yeah, for sure. If you have skewed data, you're going to have skewed results. But from the cardio perspective, sensitivity is all on how you plan your system. So if you're using a head unit to power your speakers, you're going to want the most sensitive speakers you can find. Hopefully they're truly rated, because you don't have a lot of power. If, on the other hand, you're going to run an amp, you can get away with a less sensitive speaker. You can still use a sensitive speaker, but it's all about how you plan your system out. And if you're going to use a low power amp and you want the most output, you're probably going to look for a more highly sensitive sub. But in cardio, cardio is always about trade-offs. So a highly sensitive sub sometimes don't handle as much power. There are exceptions to the rules, like the Stroker and a few other, but it's all about the trade-offs.
All right, guys, I got something I want to complain about, a marketing thing I want to complain about.
All right, let's hear it.
And you see a lot of companies do this, but I'm gonna pick on one company in particular, not because there's anything wrong with the company. They make great products, but there are a lot of companies that I feel like their marketing team doesn't have enough to do. And so they get paid to do some just like really stupid things. Y'all want to read that comment real quick before I go on?
Yeah. Kip was just saying, all things being equal, higher sensitivity on a sub correlates to a larger box required for less peak in the response curve and more low-end extension.
That's kind of a Hoffman's iron law, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's kind of proved out in most of the things I build as well.
So I'm gonna pick on audio control because I just know they have this thing that they do. They have a technology they call GTO on their car audio amplifiers. GTO. Do y'all know what GTO stands for on their amplifiers?
Great turn on.
Great turn on. It's like, how much did you pay the dude in marketing to name it Great Turn On and call it GTO?
I don't know. All I could think of was Pontiac, man. I was like, yeah.
They're obviously trying to get you to think about the Pontiac GTO or a fast car or something. And it's like, really, you paid someone in marketing to come up with that? And products all over the place do this. Another one that Audio Control does, they have one called MILC, MILC. That is the maximized input level control. That is a clip light on their input, which is a great technology. Everyone ought to have them. Mad props to them for putting it there. Why do you have to give it a stupid name?
And I wonder if that's not something like our signal sense is what they usually call that turn on. Yeah. Is that trademarked or something?
It is trademarked. Yeah, their GTO is trademarked. GTO is trademarked as well as MILC. They've trademarked them both.
But I wonder if like Signal Sense was trademarked before. Otherwise, they would have named it Signal Sense.
Might have been. It might have been.
Yeah, it could have been. I mean, it could have been, but they could have just. If you've ever read an audio control owner's manual, they get a little kitschy in there. So you're probably right on. You're probably spot on with your assessment. That
they've paid someone way too much in marketing to.
Yeah.
I mean. Yeah, in a company like Audio Control, the best thing they ever did for marketing was like to pass out gear to some of these bigger YouTubers and let Derek test a few of these things, because it turns out they make a great product. What they should stop with the silly trademark names for great features and just give us the great features without the stupid name.
Well, I know that Kip's in the chat. I know that I even forget what it's called, but they have like a epicenter feature, like a bass boost in their Acubase, but it's not called Acubase in theirs. It's called something else because I think it is trademarked.
And that's the other thing that we're getting around right now is that marketing guys will trademark things that mean all the same thing. And it gets frustrating to consumers, especially because they don't understand this apples to apples, right? Shockwave.
That's what theirs is called, Shockwave. But I'm sure that's an issue. Like if they could just say Acubase, it's like Kleenex. At this point, people know what Acubase is. It would be nice if they could put it in there, but trademarks.
Yeah, but like there are people out there right now that are saying, they're going around and saying, yeah, but my amplifier has GTO on it. Does yours?
Yeah.
And they're like,
right.
Yeah. What? Right. Like that, seriously, like people are saying that. It's kind of crazy.
Derek, you should definitely trademark Big Dummy. I think Sanford & Sons rights holders may have something to do about that, but if you can, trademark it. Yeah, like True Voice says, Xerox. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Xerox. There you go. Well, he's showing his age. Sorry, True Voice. I hope you're feeling better, by the way. He just got done having some knee surgery, so I hope he's feeling better.
Yeah, for sure, man. I hope you healed up well. Nick, you got anything that's bugging you?
Man, I've been talking so much about things that bug me. I mean, really, the things that most bug me are the things I've kind of talked about already, which are, those sensitivities and what I would say unrealistic frequency response numbers that you're not gonna get. And it's too bad and I want to go back to that real quick because it's too bad because I don't know how many times I get on my channel and I show someone how to build something really awesome for pretty cheap that can get you a really nice low end extension. And someone says, yeah, but my sub goes down to 10 hertz and it's in a 1 cubic foot box and it's a 6-inch sub. No, it doesn't. You bought into some marketing lies there, buddy. You know, and headphones
Joseph
are
Antoine Hopman have something to say about that right there. That's
well, you know, I think Craig has a good statement here that we should all live by. Who needs sensitivity when you have power? We'll kill it with power, man. Throw power at it and make the difference up.
And I'm just going to throw that right back at you, though. The problem is when you're lying about your sensitivity rating for those who don't want to put the money in the power. You know, because there's some people who say, I don't want to put the money in the power. But, you know, like, who was it that said it? He said, minus 3B in the teens again said, you know, hey, 6 decibels in power or 6 decibels in sensitivity is 4 times the power, you know, to get it back up there. And he's right. You know, you're looking at a lot more power than you thought you were. You know, at 98, you might be looking at only like 5 watts of power to get it to where you really, really want it. But 92, you're looking at.
Yeah. You always want true specs on any drive, especially if you're doing things like we're doing, building enclosures. You want true specs on your drivers. And that's why, you know, a lot of people get the Dayton DATs and test them because they want to know for sure what it's doing. And if you don't have that and you're designing an enclosure on skewed results, you're going to have trouble.
So I'm gonna bring something up now because you just rocked something in my head. Yeah, small power means you don't need CCA.
Or you can get away with it. Yeah,
small power means you can get away with CCA.
Yeah, that's a good point. So here's the deal. It's actually pretty cool. If you guys watched the live, I know Justin got to catch it. We did a live video with Clement, say Clement in English, Clement in French, from Cartesian Audio. And he also mentions how TS specs will change depending on the power that you put into it. And so that your box and everything can change because of that. And that's why some speakers sound really good on a lot of power and some speakers don't sound as good on yada, yada, yada. We can kind of understand that. And so it would be neat. We'll never see it, but it would be neat if we could see clippable TS parameters along with the test for, you know, your excursion and your other things. Cartesian's actually starting to do that. They're actually putting it on their website of all their clippables of, all right, here it is with this much Xmax and this much Xmax. Here's where the TS, which is, I mean, really good for them. I like seeing that, but it would be cool to see other people follow suit because it does let us know, hey, what's the nonlinearity in this driver and how's it going to perform with the power I want? And should I be designing the box maybe a little bit differently?
Right. And small, it's like, say you're going to build a quarter wave enclosure. Small things matter in that, and you're going to be doing tuning anyway. So if you're off by 10%, you know, once you magnify that out to, you know, it could be quite a huge difference when you're building something that precision is required.
Like El Fuego's comment. Did you see that one?
Yeah, his wife's sensitivity is pretty high when he spends big dollars on cardio and turn it up too loud. Yeah.
So here's a marketing thing that, oh, hey, Scott from Power Hog Audio, to make sure you catch that one.
Yo, what's up? Thanks. Appreciate it, my dude.
And if you guys haven't checked them out, you know, make sure to check them out. They are new to the car audio scene. They have some really cool things coming out that they really helped design from the ground up, amplifiers and other things. I caught them on 12 volt with Derek and our man here, HifiVega. They were on there not too long ago.
Yeah, they're doing some. They've got a lot of stuff that my little amps around here cannot even handle.
They got power hogs.
Yeah, but Colby had a good question about, you know, should amplifier companies stop underrating?
No, because then Derek wouldn't have a need for a YouTube channel, and
Right.
and neither would neither of us. Our YouTube careers would implode if all these people were honest. We couldn't get out here and complain about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a point at which, like the Orion, it's like a 2,500 watt rated amp. It's actually a 6,000 watt amp. Maybe that's a little too much, but it's nice to get a little more for your money.
I like underrating over overrating. I mean, honestly, I just like honest rating, because here's the deal: you're gonna have tolerances in your power rating. So I want to see it within whatever your tolerance is. Okay, I don't want to see you say 2,500 watts and it do 1,500 watts, and I don't want you to say 2,500 watts and it do 6,000 watts, because that says to me one of two things. That says to me either you don't know how to test your amplifier, or you're lying about it, right?
Yeah,
right.
I mean, you could just be lying about it, or your quality control is horrific. So
the thing to consider is,
and I don't know which one.
Everything that a company does, and this is something I feel like I read in a book somewhere. Everything a company does where they interface with the outsiders of the company, any interaction with the public is marketing. And that decision to stamp a number on the box and a price to go with it is all marketing. And so a company that has a reputation for, hey, it says 2,000 watts, but we all know it does even more, is, in my opinion, just as bad as the one who says it does 2,000. We all know it does a whole lot less, because they're both not being accurate. But it's a marketing position, right? Everyone knows that when you open up a Rockford Fosgate amp and they have a birth sheet in there, the birth sheet's always more than what you paid for.
right.
I mean, that's one of the things they do. It's part of where they've positioned themselves in the marketplace. Why should you pay more for this amp? You should pay more for it because we're actually secretly giving you more than everyone else is.
Yeah.
Well, just tell me what the actual damn power is, so I can make the calculation in my head, dollars per watts, and make the decision instead of having to be an insider and know all the inside knowledge.
Well, and then not all their subwoofer amps have to do that. I gotta be honest. I gotta hang out with Derek more often, because he like boosts my self-esteem. He said Nick nailed it, and you know what, man, I'm
not even gonna share it. I mean, your head's already so big it can almost not fit on the screen.
What are you talking about? My screen is like so huge. Wait. Oh wait, you're right. You're right.
But yeah, the thing it's nice to have accurate things, and like you said, it is just a 100% marketing ploy. For Rockford Fosgate has been employing it for forever, and it works. It builds brand confidence, and it's all marketing.
Yeah,
and in order to get those, like, if you wanted the true ratings, someone's gonna have to start doing it at the low end, and it's gonna have to make it, because Rockford Fosgate can do it, Kicker can do it, Audio Control can do it, but a lot of times, here's what happens: the Audio Control sells you a 300 watt amp, and it's priced more because it's a name brand, quote unquote. So if it does 301 watts, it passed the test, right? Mm-hmm. Now you've got this $100, or let's say $39 a 300 watt amp, and it does 350 watt amp. People equate the extra power to quality.
Yeah,
right.
That's true. And I'm gonna go back to that distortion rating just for a minute, since we're still on amplifiers. One of the companies that I've appreciated is Ice Power. You can make your own DIY amplifiers with Ice Power amplifiers if you guys aren't familiar. Home audio, not car audio. I mean, you can get Ice Power car audio, but these are all 120, 240 volt units. So, back to this point in hand, though, if you take a look at Parts Express website, I linked it. I believe I linked it. I may not have, but I can link it if I didn't. They give out their measurements, and they'll give out a graph that shows where their distortion is along the frequency response. And I really appreciate that. And I really wish like more amplifier companies would do that, because you can look at that and then say, oh, you know what? Hey, the distortion is here, and I'm not even going to be using this amplifier for that, so I don't care. Like, for example, if you're using it for your mains, right, and the distortion's down in 40 hertz and you're crossing over at 80, 120 hertz, you don't care about that distortion there. or vice versa. If your distortion's up really high and you're using it for a subwoofer amp, you don't care. So I would like to see that.
Yeah, for sure. I figured let me clear this up real quick. Craig's talking about EMF stealing people's money. Now, if you've listened to me from the beginning, you would have been saved because you never pre-order a product. Never, ever, ever pre-order a product. Buy it once it's out and ready to ship.
Shoot, I pre-ordered a product.
And on top of that, I mean, we're not journalists here, so we can't hold someone accountable. We have no way to hold someone accountable for that type of stuff. So there, it's addressed, and you don't have to mention it again, Craig.
I don't mind doing that for companies that are reputable, and
yeah.
But yeah, a lot of times I won't do. I've done it for a few companies on Kickstarter and stuff because you also have to get a company. Not everyone has the capital to start a company either. So
yeah, and maybe they don't deserve to be a company then. That's my take on it because I've been burned on pre-orders before. So I'm always the guy like I don't even want to buy the first generation of a product. I want to wait until it's been refined a little bit.
Most of the time I'm with you on that. I did pre-order recently this tool called Recon something. Can't remember what it is, but it's REEKON. This thing is awesome, maybe. Except I was supposed to get it in November and it's now March. I'm not going to get it till May now. Some of that had to do with COVID though. So, it is what it is. But this thing clips on your fence, right? Clips on your fence of your saw, like miter saw, and you zero it out with your blade. You tell it what your blade thickness is, and you run it through, and it tells you what wherever you're at, and then you just cut it. So it'll tell you you're at 5 inches, 10 inches, 12 inches, whatever, 12 and a half. You can do metric, you can do English, you can do fractions. It's awesome. Maybe. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't have one. It looks awesome.
I have a ruler and a stop block. It's a lot less expensive.
You know what? You can do that, but that's once again. Say you have to make like 5-inch cuts, and then you have to make a 3-inch cut, and then you have to make a 6-inch cut, and then you're done in like no time.
Yeah, I've seen that product as well. But the thing, like, this is my little marketing rant on Kickstarter. It's a great thing for a lot of people, but so many people have been burned off Kickstarter. I'm surprised it's still around. Because you're showing a proof of concept, most don't execute on. Even if you get your product, a lot of times it's not executed upon. And then on the other hand, you have the big companies like gaming companies kickstarting a video game.
Oh, like, yeah, don't do that ever.
You're
never do
it. Like, you can pay for this.
You never do that. I did that once. You never do that because companies, video game companies, first of all, they never even deliver a final product from like EA. So, they're going to deliver one off Kickstarter.
Blizzard's become notorious for launching a big game and it be unplayable for the first 2 weeks.
And this is the segment where me and HifiVega and Justin tell you that we're actually starting a Kickstarter next week. So make sure you're all on.
Yeah. We're going to promise a product that we don't know what it is yet.
We will have it. Right. Just send us all $1,000. Every one of you send us each $1,000, and we promise you we'll have a product out sometime in 2038.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I'm not even backing that up.
What should we close out on? Do you guys got anything to talk about the boom? We kind of
I got one thing to say. It's very short and simple. And guys, just make sure everyone's listening to this. The champ is here.
Oh,
I thought you were talking about me. I was pointing myself. No. I thought you were talking about me.
No, you have way too high of an ego. No, I wasn't talking about
Well, see, I can't even smack talk because I rolled the dice so hard on this design that it's going to be a love or hate. So I don't know if people are going to love it or hate it.
I'm telling you right now that he is so playing us. That his is like ridiculously awesome. I'm kind of sick of hearing this from HifiVega because I know his is going to be unbelievable.
Or it might be terrible. I mean, you've seen my
glue
job.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
You've seen the glue job already.
Yeah, that's true, actually. That's like the real crappy car right from the outside, everyone's like, "Oh, I don't want to steal that," and then on the inside, it's got like $100,000 worth of electronics. That's what
like
you just did.
like Eddie Murphy's house on Coming to America.
Yes, exactly, like his apartment. Yeah, and it has like a hot tub and everything in there. Yeah.
You know, a little bit of good-natured trash talk makes it entertaining, especially when y'all see how awesome my boombox is, and you'll all be depressed then. So you'll get to look back on the good laughs you had.
I actually wasn't.
All you're going to get out of it.
I wasn't trash talking. I was being honest. I didn't realize we were. If you want me to trash talk, I'll start now.
I seriously consider just throwing some Danish oil on it and putting a HifiVega logo. I'm like, yeah, check this out, guys.
No, honestly, I just
look scared.
Honestly, I hope that everyone likes it. I hope that we're honest, and I think that we should up the ante of this build. So I'm putting all these guys on the spot. Here's what I think. Next week when we reveal it, and Chris is on there, we're gonna have the People's Choice Award. We're gonna have Chris's Choice Award, and I think each one of us should vote for the best boombox, but we can't vote for ourselves.
You know how that's gonna work.
Yeah, well, you can't vote for yourself. So you have to vote for either.
yourself.
Yeah, you can't vote for yourself. So you have to vote for either me or HifiVega, and I have to vote for either you or him.
Yeah.
And he has to vote for one of us. That'll work.
Okay,
There's 3 of us, so it has to work. I mean,
sure. Why not?
Someone's going to get 2 votes. They have
as long
to.
as it's a secret ballot. I'll go along with it.
Someone could. Well, it's not going to be. Okay. Well, I mean, I guess you can write it down ahead of time.
HifiVega's on here telling state secrets, so we better end the broadcast before it gets too crazy. Oh man, my dude Thomas Marshall, the big TM, the Marshall of likes on YouTube videos.
Nice.
Hit us with hit that like button, gang. Appreciate it, bro, as always. And with that being said, I think it's time to sign out. It's your boy HifiVega. It's your guy, the DIY audio guy, Toyd's DIY audio. You guys' name are too long. It's 3 syllables, and I can only do 1. But check out Sunday for sure. The boombox builds. Vote in the polls. Let us know which one you like, which one you don't like. If you hate mine, I would like to see the lowest amount of votes, maybe 0. And if you love it, then just blow these guys out of the water.
Yeah, just be honest. I mean, Scott seems to love yours, so I'm excited to see it.
Yeah. All right.
No, I don't have any experience with the C notes.
We will see you guys next We'll see you Sunday. You'll see us Sunday.